Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning, Washington. It is 6:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. We have a great show today coming up at 7:05. Joe DeGeneva. Haven't you all just been waiting for his reaction to the election? At 7:35, Trevor Maddich on the Commanders. At 8:05, Matthew Hurt. He's the chair of the Arlington GOP. He's going to tell us how Arlington Republicans are preparing for the new Trump administration. And at 8:35, General Jack Keane. He'll give us an update on the Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. You are listening to O'Connor and Company. I'm Julie Gunlock. I'm sitting in for Larry, and I'm here alongside Hans von Spakovsky. Hey, Hans.
Good morning, Julie. In the great, by the way, the new studio, relatively new studios. You know, the last time I was here years ago was in the old studio, and man, you guys have really joined the modern age with the equipment in here.
It is really nice. Yeah, we've been in here, I don't know, Michael, how long have we been in here? A couple months. It's really nice. Well, we've got some more news on the reactions to the election from both the Harris folks and the Biden folks. And let's just say the blame game has started. This was an interesting clip we have here. Cut 7. This was former Obama speechwriter Jon Favreau. He is saying that the Biden internal polling had Trump winning at 400 electoral votes. And he's got some choice words for Kamala as well. So why don't we play cut 7?
Joe Biden's decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake. It just was. And he and his inner circle, they refused to believe the polls. They refused to believe he was unpopular. They refused to acknowledge until very late that anyone could be upset about inflation, and they just kept telling us that his presidency was historic and it was the greatest economy ever. We just heard him again say that it's the greatest economy ever. Clearly, 70-80% of voters don't believe that. They don't believe that about their own personal financial situation, but they just keep telling us that. And then after the debate, Biden people told us that the polls were fine, and Biden was still the strongest candidate. And they were privately telling reporters at the time that Kamala Harris couldn't win. So they were shivving Kamala Harris to reporters while they told everyone else not a time for an open process and his vice president can't win, so he's the strongest candidate. Then we find out when the Biden campaign becomes the Harris campaign, that the Biden campaign's own internal polling at the time when they were telling us he was the strongest candidate showed that Donald Trump was going to win 400 electoral votes. That's what their own internal polling said.
I'm not surprised by that. It's like Joe Biden and his people were inhabiting a fantasy world.
They were.
All the things they were telling the public, which was just so clearly not true about how we got the greatest economy. It's like, what, they really believed that?
Yeah.
It was astonishing.
Yeah, I watched some of the morning shows over the weekend, and it was interesting, all of them saying, when your groceries are so high, you just don't really care about climate change, or you don't really care about pronouns, or, and essentially what all of these, and these were all Democrats, and these were all people talking about how, trying to figure out what went wrong. And it was interesting. Now they're willing to say that there is inflation, because during the entire campaign, we were hearing that it's all your imagination and everything's great.
Right.
And that actually inflation is down, and that actually prices are coming down, and actually crime is down, and actually the border's fine. So now in reflection, they're willing to admit all of these things that the American public knew all along. And I appreciate this from Jon Favreau. Now, this is interesting. Remember, he is former Barack Obama speechwriter. This is exactly what this is, to me, what the Obama people feel. They're pretty mad about this. They're pretty hot about this. They're angry that Biden ever ran. He should have bailed out early. They should have had an open primary, picked the best candidate to beat Trump. Right. And so they're spitting mad. But where were these people beforehand? I mean, I know there are stories about how Biden came out and endorsed her too quickly. They're mad about that too. And it was a fait accompli, like, okay, we have to go with Kamala. But they weren't honest with the American people either.
No, they were completely dishonest. Of course, I can't say I'm surprised by this because, Joe Biden's own ego
Oh, yeah.
would keep him in the race. I was reminded of how long he's wanted to be president when I was watching one of the cable channels that shows old TV shows, and they run episodes of the Johnny Carson show. And Joe Biden first ran for president in 1988. That was a very, very long time ago.
It really was. It was a whole different country. Meanwhile, this is a pretty amazing clip that I saw, again, over the weekend. Kamala Harris's communications campaign staffer, he went on CNN, and he had an interesting suggestion. I would love to get your thoughts on this. Can we play cut 8?
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
It would absolve her from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat. And it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats
Okay, this
operate.
has now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now.
Congratulations.
A season of House of Cards.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, can we just when he says the Democrats need to learn drama? You've learned it. You've learned drama. But what were your thoughts when you heard that?
That's got to be one of the dumbest suggestions I've heard. I just it's another sign, I think, of the desperation, frankly, of the Democratic Party and Democratic officials who still just don't understand what's happened to them. In fact, they remind me of Wile E. Coyote and having a huge anvil has fallen on them, and they still don't get it.
Yeah, they don't get it, and I don't really understand. Also, if we think back, listen to what that guy says, what would be the point of that? Is it just to give her the title of president? Like I'm trying to understand when I was listening to that.
It's
clip.
like a compensation prize,
Yeah.
I guess. But again, I just think it's a ridiculous. The American people would once again see that as just an artifice. Something just created artificially, which was the whole problem with her campaign from the very start.
You have 3 kids, I have 3 kids, and we know that, over the last sort of several decades, there's been this participation trophy thing where,
Right.
The entire team gets a trophy.
Yes.
And this is not something conservative parents like. In fact, it's not all, but I mean, because I know some Democrats who also kind of can't stand this participation trophy business. This is exactly that. In the presidential, you're right. It is giving a participation trophy to Kamala. Here, you can have the title for 3 months and oversee your own defeat and your own transition of power. I mean, I don't really exactly think that's a kind thing to suggest. She doesn't want that. Did you see the picture of her this weekend sitting there playing a game with her? I think it was her or her nieces or something, and she had a glass of wine. She's got a great. She doesn't want this baloney.
Yeah, I just plus look, Joe Biden would never agree to this.
Well, of course.
He was mad.
Well,
he
there
was
is
mad.
that.
He's already mad at the DNC and others for forcing him out of the race.
Yeah.
Despite the realities of the fact that he was going to have one of the worst losses in American history if he had run.
Well, we will cover this and more insane reactions in just a minute. But first, it is 6:15.
News is brought to you by Baird Financial.
So, Hans, we are already starting to see what people are calling the Trump effect.
Right, abroad.
Yes.
It's really good. I mean, you saw Qatar just almost immediately said, "Oh, Hamas folks, you need to leave."
Yeah, the Houthis, too, are like, we're done. We want peace. We're not going to, attack any more ships.
Right, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I do before elections is we get a lot of foreign delegations coming in who are here to observe the election. So I ended up briefing them a lot about the election process. But the biggest thing I noticed about all these foreigners was they kept asking, what's Trump going to do? There was fear. And listen, that's a good thing in foreign countries. And you can see that already in the way folks are reacting because they're thinking, oh, foreigners with ill intent are saying maybe we shouldn't engage in what we were going to do because we don't know how Donald Trump will react to that. That's actually a good thing for us.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it isn't just, I mean, we saw this Qatar kicking out Hamas. We've seen the Houthis suggest that, okay, everything, hey, we're cool. We're going to cool our jets. Also, Putin apparently made some statements saying we're looking to negotiate a peace deal. Trump already had a call with Zelensky, so that's ongoing. We're also seeing it in the private sector. Toyota, just days after Donald Trump's victory, Toyota became the first automaker to distance itself from electric vehicles. The company said that the Biden-Harris EV rules, which are insane, are, quote, not aligned with consumers. Other smaller sort of indications, Steve Madden, sort of a women's purse and shoe retailer, they announced they plan to rapidly move production out of China following Trump's election win. So there's, and look, there are dozens of these kinds of examples from the weekend of movement happening just in anticipation of Trump.
Yeah, and that's a good thing because, one of the promises that the president made was to try to restore the economy and restore American jobs by moving manufacturing, enticing manufacturers to come back to the United States. And he isn't even in office. Apparently, it's already working.
Well, also, this is sort of gets into this tariff conversation where people are, I know that, a lot of Republicans and certainly libertarians are like, this is a very bad idea, but there are an awful lot of other people even on the right that are saying this can be used as a negotiating tactic or to urge manufacturers to come back to the United States. And, look, I think this deserves a longer conversation, but at least right now, the threat of tariffs, the threat of that is moving some businesses to come back. We're already seeing it. Interestingly, we're also seeing it in some policies, some domestic policies. The mayor of New York City announced he's ending food vouchers for illegal aliens. This is something that Republicans have been saying for a long time. Like, why are we giving handouts to these illegals that come in? They get free apartments, they get free food, they get free money. They don't work. They don't even need to work. That is, obviously an incentive to come to this country. And it looks like that is going to end. And probably the best news is that George Clooney might actually shut up. He has announced that he's taking a step back from politics because, he's getting blamed for some of this Biden stuff.
Well, he should. And look, all the celebrities who are constantly, saying that they're going to leave the country. Hey, all of us, that could be a great secondary effect of the Trump victory is that they will actually leave.
It would be so great. Listen, we've got a lot more. We're going to talk about the Iranian assassination plot coming up, and we've got many more other topics. But right now, it is 6:21 on WMAL. Hans, it's all very exciting election news, and we're focusing on the Democrats' sort of unhinged meltdowns, and it's all very fun. But there's a very serious story out there, and that is about the Iranian government, their plot to hire a hitman to assassinate Donald Trump. It was thwarted a month ago, just before the election. This is really chilling, and we are going to talk to General Jack Keane. He's coming up at 8:35, so keep it here to hear his thoughts on it. But my goodness, this is a terrifying story.
Well, it is, and anyone who thinks that this kind of thing is going to stop, no, it's going to accelerate even more. I think Donald Trump's going to end up being the president with the greatest threats of probably any president in history.
Yeah, and considering that there have already been 2 assassination attempts,
right?
And we don't really know much about those. Notice we don't know.
No, they haven't revealed a lot about this Iranian plot, who was involved, all the extent of it, or anything else.
Yeah, the Iranian man, he has been charged. So this man was found and arrested. He's been charged in the murder for hire scheme to take down the president-elect. And according to this news report, this is the Daily Mail, this attempt was revenge for the 2020 killing of Iranian military leader Qasem Soleimani. Remember the Soleimani? He died like a dog, right? Yeah, so this was apparently revenge for that. Would-be assassin Fared Shakari's 51 has been described by the FBI as an asset of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. He's now on the run in Tehran. So I guess they have one guy in custody, and then one guy is on the run in Tehran. This is really scary. Iran repeatedly assured the hitman that they would spend as much money as possible to make sure the assassinations were carried out. This is, again, we'll be talking to General Jack Keane about this at 8:35. This is really scary stuff. And I think you're right. I think we will see more attempts. I mean, I hope not, but it looks like they're pretty determined. We will talk more about this and the Trump transition next. Keep it here. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now. Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning, Washington. It is 6:37 on this Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. Thanks for tuning in to News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. We have a great show today. Coming up at 7:05, Joe DeGeneva and his reaction to the election. At 7:35, Trevor Mattich on the Commanders. 8:05, we'll talk to Matthew Hurt. He's the chair of the Arlington GOP, and he'll tell us how Arlington Republicans are preparing for a Trump administration. 8:35, General Jack Keane on the Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. You are listening to O'Connor and Company. I'm Julie Gunlock, sitting in for Larry O'Connor, alongside my friend Hans von Spakovsky. Hey, Hans.
Hi, Julie, and it's going to be a nice sunny day. We heard from Jimmy Whitten, which is a good day to put out your American flag since it's Veterans Day.
That is right. That is right. And happy Veterans Day, Hans. Trump announced, I believe it was this weekend, that he will not be bringing Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo into his administration. This isn't a big surprise, is it?
Well, no, not really.
I mean, we had Nikki Haley, who sort of, she was late to endorsing him.
And she said some pretty nasty things about him, not only during the campaign, but the fact that, he had made her the UN ambassador. And one thing we've learned about him is he does not like people who are not loyal. Yes.
Disloyalty is he remembers. He has a long list, and he remembers. And Pompeo also, I believe Pompeo went on either Fox or a news program and said that he should be prosecuted for, I think it was January 6th or one of the many indictments. But he was no friend to Trump there after January 6th. And Nikki Haley, again, right before the election, suggesting that she is not being used as a surrogate, that he's going to lose female voters because she's not being trotted out to defend him. So, again, I'm not surprised. Plenty of people are surprised. I am not surprised.
Well, no, I'm not surprised. And look, there's a lot of actually good people that he can pick from for the many positions that he's going to have to fill, and he's already starting to do that.
Yeah, one of them is we've gotten some, I believe this is breaking news, about Tom Homan. You know Tom quite well. And
yeah, he's going to be the new border czar in the White House, which means, yeah, he's not going to be the head of the Department of Homeland Security, but actually in the White House, I think he can actually do more, because it's not just DHS that's involved with taking care of the border security problem. There's a lot of other federal government departments involved in this, from DHS to Department of Justice, et cetera. And in the White House, he can do a more effective job. The biggest thing that voters look at always is, does a politician fulfill the promises he made during the campaign? And I can tell you, by appointing Tom Homan, he is the most knowledgeable guy I know about what you need to do to get the border under control. Trump is already starting to fulfill that promise.
Let's listen to Tom Homan, cut 9.
As a guy who spent 34 years deporting illegal aliens, I got a message. to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law, you better start packing now. You're damn right. Because you're going home.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't mince words.
No, and what people need to understand is he's not some business guy who's getting a nice political slot. He worked in the Border Patrol. He knows this area like he's like the beat cop.
Yeah.
Who came up through the ranks. That's who Tom Homan is. So he knows exactly what we need to do to not only deport the many aliens who are in the country illegally, particularly the criminals that this administration has allowed to roam around, but how to also get the border secure so that people can't actually get across the border into the United States.
He's also, I think one thing what I love about Trump and sort of this Trump era is I hate the sort of self-hating Republican who apologizes for their positions, but we have to do it, right? I can't.
Right.
And we spent a lot of years as those kinds of Republicans, right? And Tom Homan is not like that at all. Let's play cut 10. This is him sort of pushing back on a 60 Minutes reporter who was trying to do a hit piece on him.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is it worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
I love how they never, these reporters never seem interested in the cost of illegal immigration, of the influx of illegal immigrants into this country.
Right. Which, by the way, because I've looked at the numbers on this and written about it, the vast majority of the cost is imposed on states and local governments. They are the ones who pay all the extra costs in education, medical costs, criminal justice. They pay the vast majority of this. It's not even the federal government that does it.
Yeah, we've got more coming up on this, but right now it is 6:43.
Headlines, analysis, perspective.
From the voices you trust.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Grandma's in the house. She's undocumented. She get arrested too?
It depends.
Which?
Let the judge decide. We're going to remove people that a judge has already deported.
Homan's suggestion that Grandma might face arrest would mark a major shift in policy.
Yeah, that was Tom Homan, again, 60 Minutes clutching its pearls about illegal grandmas getting arrested. Tom again is just, look, it depends. It depends on her criminal record. It depends on many things.
Plus, Julie, look, the vast majority of aliens coming across the southern border are single males, okay? And the other thing they keep talking about, mass deportation, you just can't physically do it. Look, the other key to this, which everybody forgets about, is that you want to set up conditions so that large numbers of these aliens who are illegally start self-deporting.
That's right.
And that means doing things like canceling the work permits that the Biden administration illegally gave to aliens, which they're not allowed to do under federal immigration law, to cut off government benefits that they are receiving, to go after the big employers who are breaking the law by hiring aliens who are illegally. You do all those kinds of things, and the vast majority of aliens who are here for only one reason, to send remittances back to their home countries, they're going to start leaving on their own.
That's right. That's right. I also do love the idea that so many of the illegal aliens that came in under the Biden administration came under this temporary protected status. The Democrats apparently just ignore the word temporary.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? They just like let's just gloss over that. Like that doesn't matter. Meanwhile, there's more news about the Trump transition. Elise Stefanik has been offered the role of U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. What do you think about that?
I think he appointed her because she's a tough-talking New Yorker, and frankly, that is exactly what is needed at the UN when you have the news of things like all these members of UNRWA being part of Hamas and taking part in the attacks on Israel. I mean, that's an agency we should, part of the UN, we shouldn't be funding at all anymore, and yet the Biden administration has continued to give them money.
The UN has been a corrupt, disgusting organization for, practically since its inception. And, my old friend, the late Claudia Rosette, she revealed some stunning corruption within the World Food Program and other UN agencies, specifically as it related to North Korea and North Korean refugees. I really miss Claudia at times like this, but I think Elise Stefanik is an excellent choice for that role. This is kind of a funny little, we only have a few seconds left, but a funny little rumor here. There's a rumor going around that Peter Doocy, Fox News' White House correspondent, Peter Doocy, he's awesome. He's being considered for press secretary. You think that'll happen?
He'd be a great choice, wouldn't he? Somebody who's young and actually knows what he's talking about, unlike the current press secretary at the White House.
We will cover more of these appointments as they are announced. Right now it is 6:52.